And this is the news update from March 10th, 2009. I'm Brian. That guy's Chris.
Let's do the news.
What's new in the news, Chris?
All right, Brian. Well, let's get to our top story on the news docket. Oh, hey, you know what? We should talk about before we even get this show started.
What are we going to talk about?
We've got a whole bunch of new feeds for all of these shows. You can find them over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. And
Correcto.
They're just down there on that lower right-hand side. You have to scroll down the page a bit, and there's now a drop-down list.
Yeah, it's like at the bottom of the whole right-hand side columnar thing.
Yeah.
And just a whole slew of feed options made available by jupiterbroadcasting.com.
Audio versions,
all sorts of stuff.
Video download versions, all that stuff.
Shows, you can get everything in one package. You can get them all separate. It's amazing. It's technology at work is what it is.
It's pretty impressive. All right, so now let's do our top story. You ready? Here we go.
Yes.
All right, so our first story will be KOffice 2.0 Beta 7 has been announced.
It sure as heck has.
Yeah, so KOffice, pretty good Office suite, right?
A very good Office suite. It's ever since KDE 4 shipped, KOffice has been kind of steadily moving towards a final new release that kind of takes advantage of the latest versions of Qt that KDE is shipping with, and a lot of the extra KDE 4 goodness. Right. And so it's nice to see this kind of steadily moving forward. This is kind of just a nice evolutionary progression of it.
And even though I'm not a KDE guy, I don't run KDE as my main desktop, I actually prefer KOffice over OpenOffice for a lot of things.
I do too. KOffice is a much simpler suite. OpenOffice is very big. It was meant to be like a competitor to like Microsoft Office like 95, and so as such it looks a lot like Office 95 in its toolbar placement and all these other things. Right. KOffice, on the KDE side of things, it has its own particular look and feel. It's much simpler, a lot less buttons, because buttons can be confusing. Right? Am I right or am I right? And it just looks nice. They've done a very nice job of just making it look very slick and streamlined.
And one of the things they're working on with this new version is
not the OpenOffice guys, of course, because OpenOffice is pretty rad. But come on, gotta give credit where credit's due.
OpenOffice is like the old go-to whenever I have a document I need to be able to open that isn't rendering quite right for sure. Right. So
exactly.
Props to the OpenOffice guys.
Huge.
But one of the things they're working with this new version of KOffice 2 is total platform independence. So they expect to have not only working great with just KDE and GNOME, but also on Windows and the Mac, and then even Solaris and other Unix FreeBSD type desktops as well. So Windows and Mac users are going to be able to take advantage of KOffice, and when that happens, it might explode.
It really could. Let's be honest. There's a lot of, let's say for the Mac users, right? So what are their options? They can use, Apple's iWork suite, which really, come on, it's pretty lame. It's limited. It doesn't really do much of anything. It's pretty much just a little toy. And then they can use Microsoft Office, but a lot of Mac people don't want to use Microsoft Office.
It's super expensive. It's
expensive and it's a big suite and all that, and a lot of Mac users just don't want to support Microsoft. Let's be clear about what they want. So when they can have KOffice, this great looking suite that's coming out from a group of people that obviously care a great deal about the look and feel of things, I really think that Mac and then Windows people might really jump all over this.
So the Mac has like NeoOffice, which is like OpenOffice, but again, OpenOffice is not my favorite. So this is pretty cool. But so for those not familiar with KOffice, there's a few things besides just a word processor and a spreadsheet program.
Holy moly, there's a ton of things.
There's there's a raster graphics editor, a vector graphics editor, project management software.
The project management software, by the way, is something that I use daily. It's phenomenal quality.
So one of the other things they're working on is a much more unified look and feel across all of the applications, and this is on top of the platform independence, and much more unified. Things will be much more integrated, and that could be really nice for much simpler workflow.
Incredibly nice, incredibly nice. So big props to them. Do we have an official date as yet as when they're thinking the final might be ready?
No,
or is it still just kind of when it's ready, it's ready?
Yeah, well, that's
what it is.
Yeah, that's kind of what's been driving KOffice all along, I think, because some people would have liked to have had it
when KDE 4 shipped.
Right.
Yeah,
but they really spend the time to make this a really finely tuned application. It's going to be based on Qt 4.5. 4.5. So, you'll have to have those Qt libraries on your system to get it.
But But that makes sense. If you've already got KDE going, you probably will anyway. So
right,
not too damn shabby.
Yeah,
if I do say so myself.
I'm definitely watching this one because I'm excited about this. All right,
Yeah,
so
very
this
cool.
next one, I don't know, just kind of jumped out at me, kind of weird. You pointed it out to me, and I didn't really hear much about it. It's called Presto, and it's not called Presto Linux, but it's just called Presto.
Just Presto. Yeah.
But it is based on Linux. It's actually based on Xandros, you were saying.
It is. So yeah. So basically, what this is Xandros, the company behind Xandros Linux, who acquired Linspire,
right?
The makers of Linspire Linux, and before that they were called Lindos, and the people who do the click and run store on Linux side of things.
FreeSpire.
And FreeSpire. So from them, they're releasing this version of Xandros Linux that's kind of slimmed down to boot really, really fast.
Right.
And it also includes a custom version of the Click and Run store. It's like Presto Click and Run or something like that, with its own kind of look and feel.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be selling it starting in April for $20, so like a 1995 thing. And it's going to be a version of Linux, supposedly a Windows alternative.
Super fast boot is like their claim to fame, right? It's
that's the whole thing, yeah. Is it has click and run, so you have things like Skype and your media codecs.
Right, and
so
email.
theoretically, it should be a pretty easy transition for Windows users, and it's supposed to boot in just a few seconds as opposed to a Windows machine that they're claiming can take forever. So,
and you can download I think you can download a free beta. You have to register,
Yeah.
and the free beta is going to be out on March 16th.
Correct. The free beta should be out in the next week, and then there's a month of beta, and then the final.
Right, you buy
which
it.
will be $20.
They're also targeting OEMs, so computer manufacturers. I would assume probably netbook makers, maybe.
Yeah. Now this actually does make a certain level of sense. I mean, if you bought one of the early Asus EEEs, it actually shipped with a version of Xandros Linux built in, but it was kind of an older version, and they slimmed it down to make that version boot faster, which. To be honest, was pretty remarkable. Those things booted crazy fast.
But I think the problem is they had to go through Asus to sell that installation. So now their thought is we're going to take that and we're going to bundle our own, update it, and sell it directly.
And now they'll have Presto, which they can then turn around and sell it to the OEMs, sell it standalone or whatnot. But it can be an actual version of the actual Linux distribution, basically.
Right.
That is much easier to maintain that way. That way they don't have custom versions for every OEM on the planet and everything like that.
Chris,
so I get it from that point of view.
Yeah, otherwise I don't get it. I mean, there's so many other distros out there. A lot of them are coming out with netbook remixes. Okay, the fast boot, sure, that's nice. I would almost rather just, again, I know we've said this before, but focus on bulletproof suspend and hibernate, and I don't need fast boot. I don't need it.
To be fair though, Xandros on the EEEs when they shipped, their suspend and hibernate was perfect.
Yep.
It was top notch, crazy good. So if they have that same sort of quality in this Presto alternative, so if I could take Presto and throw it on the EEEs, throw it on like the HP Mini netbooks that I've got here and whatnot, that actually could be a pretty great way to go for a lot of people with netbooks.
Yeah.
So as of right now, I'm just saying this is a netbook distro with where you pay $20, and for that $20 you get some extra maybe media codecs or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of reserving judgment for the moment. Initially, this struck me as kind of lame and not all that interesting. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it's cool. So we'll try the demo out, the beta out, and we'll see how it looks. But I'm going to reserve.
I'll link to the website in the notes for the show. I gotta say, the way that they have some screenshots on their website, and the way they have it laid out is they have almost like it's like a dock, but it's just like a toolbar. They have a side toolbar, and they have some static icons on it. And they're nice looking icons.
Yeah, they look fine.
But then the window decorators and the theme,
not so good.
It's not so good. It doesn't look that great. And I realize, on netbooks it's low resources, but you can still make it. You can still make it
look classy. Well, I mean, I think it's an improvement. Xandros actually shipped with a Windows XP like theme for the Asus machines, so this is a nice improvement over that. I gotta say,
that's true.
But we'll see. We'll see. It's got another month or so before the final's out. There could be changes coming along, we'll take a look.
I would rather see netbooks ship with this than something like XP. I had just today a phone call from a client who bought a netbook. He thought it was really cool. It was a doctor. Came with XP, and he's already infected. He bought it on Friday, and today's Monday.
This is how things like this work. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this would be actually very, very nice for a netbook.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about something that I think you're probably going to be pretty excited about.
Yes,
the Maemo folks have released an SDK for Maemo 5 which kind of they're just saying, hey, the door's open. Come experiment, get your hands dirty with it, and let's have something awesome made. So what's Maemo, and who makes it?
Sure. So this is from the fine folks at Nokia. So if you may remember, there is Nokia makes a line of internet tablets. Specifically, the N810 is the current version.
Huge fan of that.
This little sucker right here, beautiful little device.
Touchscreen, slide down, QWERTY keyboard.
Deal. So basically what it is Maemo is roughly based on something called Hilden, which is a portable version of a GNOME desktop, basically. So it's a Debian-based distribution. You can almost think of it just as essentially a portable Debian. Portable Debian distro with a certain set of interface guidelines and whatnot, and a few libraries specifically for portable devices.
And it's all GTK-based currently.
Currently, it's mostly GTK based, right? Now, what's happened is Nokia, of course, purchased Trolltech, the company behind Qt, or Qt, depending on who you are and how you like to say words. I say Qt because it's just the letters Qt. I'm not going to say cute because if I say cute and I look at an application, I'm saying, hey, Chris, look at this cute application. Well, you're just going to think that I think it's adorable and has pink ponies. You're not going to think, oh, it's made with Qt, the cool framework. So I'm going to say Qt because that makes more sense. So now the Qt 4.5 is out and is LGPL'd and everything like that, and it looks glorious, by the way. But they're also bringing Qt to the Maemo platform, so it's for portable devices.
Yeah.
So Nokia is kind of bringing together all the different little pieces and parts that they control and that they have been putting a lot of investment into, and putting it onto one little thing. And the next Maemo devices, the next Nokia Internet tablets, going to be having a much nicer processor, 3D hardware rendering, full OpenGL support, as well as motion support. So they can do the tilt stuff like
a
iPhone,
little accelerometer.
Little accelerometer, things like that, GPS navigation, all which the current ones already have. But so they're basically much beefier devices. Now, in order to take full advantage of that, they're coming out with this new version of Maemo. A lot of people call it the code name of Fremantle. Now, basically all this is just kind of a reworking of it to take advantage of all these cool new features.
Okay.
And of course, since it's getting all this new power and 3D rendering and everything, why not give it a full new UI, right?
Yeah.
Sure. So if you go over to maemo.org, and see some news items there, and you can get some screenshots of what some of the preliminary UI for that looks like. And a lot of it's based on Clutter, which you guys may know as a very cool UI graphics framework. So this actually looks very, very cool. It's very preliminary still. This is not final by any means, and the UI is not complete. It's like a halfway, right?
Okay.
Basically, it looks like they took like the PSP PlayStation 3 UI and squashed it with Maemo, and then stripped everything out, and then made you use your imagination. So really, we don't know a whole heck of a lot yet. I'm personally very excited about what it could potentially mean for the next version of tablets. And the reason this is cool is because everyone's excited about iPhones, and everyone's excited about Android phones, and nobody's really that excited about Windows mobile phones. I almost said that, but that's really not true. Theoretically, someone might eventually get excited about a Windows mobile phone, let's say that. But the really cool thing here is with the Maemo devices, you have more of a computer in your pocket as opposed to a phone or a PDA in your pocket.
Right. I mean, it sounds like a full mobile computer.
It's a full mobile computer, and they even came out with a version of the N810 that had WiMAX support. So theoretically, if you're in a supported market, you're walking around with full, essentially, cell phone.
But that's been discontinued. That model, the WiMAX model,
it's discontinued. But theoretically, they're coming out with new ones with HSDPA I think I said that right. Support, so they have cell phone data built in to some of the future models. So then you have a full Debian-based Linux distribution with a cool UI, a nice application repository with lots and lots of tools in there. Basically, it becomes the perfect Twitter machine, is what it amounts to. Plus, the things have a webcam. Anyway, so the new Maemo SDK is really only for devs, but if you're interested in the future of the devices, go to maemo.org and check out some of the screenshots and see kind of where they're leading things, because the look and feel does look very modern. It reminds me of a lot of the stuff Sony comes out with, which could be.
It definitely looks like. I mean, I look at this information, and I gotta say, this has got to be where the future of mobile computing is going.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
It's the open version. Ryan Paul over at Ars Technica did a whole write-up on the new Maemo 5 SDK. Talks a lot about it, so I'll link to that in the notes for the show, because if you haven't seen this yet and you're just curious about future technology, even if you're not a developer, this is future technology here.
It's worth reading up on. Yeah. It's even if for nothing else than to have an idea of what devices are coming, so you don't buy the wrong device now and regret it in a few months down the line.
Right. All right, so the last story I have for the news docket today.
I want to point out one other thing.
All right.
Maemo. So Nokia has been throwing a lot of money behind Maemo, and if you start looking at Nokia's website, they are hiring a metric boatload of developers to work on Maemo. Now, of course, none of them are in the Seattle area. Thanks a lot, Nokia. But just the same, it's very cool. It's cool to see the companies throw that much resources behind an open project like Maemo.
Yeah, you definitely know they're going for it. They've decided this is where they're going, which is awesome. Okay.
Quite.
So the last story on the news docket for this episode is let's talk a little bit about the plans for code weavers in the year 2009, Brian.
No, I'm good.
So, okay. So code weavers for
everyone.
For the folks out there, it lets you run Windows applications on a Mac or on Linux.
Right. Basically, it's a repackaged, modified Wine.
Yeah.
With the UI on top of it and some configuration utilities to basically make applications work better.
It's a pretty hacked up version of Wine. They call it Crossover, and they have Crossover Linux and Crossover Mac, and they're about to approach their 8.0 version, which should be out in a few months, and they've really worked a lot on DirectX, which is kind of something they always do. But they had a delay. They planned to ship sooner, but they kind of developed like this back-end engine system to install applications and for compatibility and things like that, and they really thought they had it figured out. And then after just banging on it for a long time, they figured out this engine is just not what we expected it to be, and so they've kind of had to start over.
Oh, man.
So that's kind of where the delay's been. But
that's rough. I feel for them.
I know. But here's the thing. When Crossover 8.0 ships, you're going to see a lot better support for IE7, which is kind of in the experimental areas right now.
Yep.
The modern versions of QuickBook will be able to run. QuickBooks is one of the staples out there for small businesses and managing their finances.
Yep.
So that's super important.
You got to get on Linux if you want businesses to ship. Yeah,
exactly. And Quicken 2009, which is really important for a lot of home users, is going to be running. And then also they've done additional work to really just make Photoshop CS3 run like a champ under Crossover.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
Well, a lot of this stuff can...
I don't know, it feels... Yeah, okay.
A lot of the stuff you can already use Wine for, but sometimes you have to change a few config files. This, it's a GUI. You put in the CD, it installs it. It supports if they have the CD DRM stuff. It supports doing the DRM on the CDs for the installer. And so that's good. The last thing that they've really worked hard on, and this is almost the most important part for people in Exchange environments, and Evolution isn't cutting it for you, or you're on the Mac and Entourage isn't cutting it for you. They've worked a ton on Outlook and Microsoft Exchange support.
Well, that's good. That's very good.
Now, I think it's still Office 2003, which at this point...
That's kind of long in the tooth there.
Yeah. We've had Office 2007 now for a couple years.
Couple years. Yeah. 2007. More or less.
And then after this version of Crossover ships, version 8, they're going to work on a game-tailored one that's just like, DirectX, any game copy protection scheme supports, those kinds of things. Also a new UI. They're going to have a new UI for Crossover as well. So if you're a Crossover customer, this is good for you.
Yeah, this does seem very good. I haven't used Crossover in quite a while. I mean, not honestly since I first came over to the Linux side of things. I mean, I never really.
I initially used it to run Office because the nice thing it would do is it could integrate with the Office file types. So if somebody emailed me an Excel spreadsheet that wouldn't render okay in KOffice or OpenOffice, I could right-click on it and say Open in Microsoft Office, and Crossover would just open Microsoft Office in the background. And
see, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
But honestly, I just VMware it these days.
Yeah, seriously. VMware, VirtualBox, something. Just load it up. Yeah, I like to keep my little self-contained environments everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of just doing things under virtualization now. So I own Crossover, the current version. So I'll probably upgrade because I've just been a long-time customer. And it is handy when you just want a single, like if you just want Photoshop really quick and you don't want to load up an entire virtualization environment.
For sure.
And if you just have that one app, you don't necessarily need to virtualize an entire Windows OS, and then you have to manage the Windows OS. So,
That's a good point.
There's
And
some
update
pros.
it constantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is kind of a pain.
Hey, you know, we should mention that for the people that are subscribing to our YouTube channel over at youtube.com/Jupiter Broadcasting, once we hit 3,000 over there subscribers, we're giving away a popcorn hour.
Popcorn Hour, cool little set-top box media player device.
Yep.
Cool little rig. We got it sitting right here, sitting in the box, all packaged up and ready to roll.
Plays
What
like every format.
Right now we got another 1,000 or so people to go.
Yeah.
But we're making progress. So
it's a slow climb, but we knew it would be
3,000.
getting people to subscribe. And if you don't have a popcorn hour, or you could always use more. It's such a nice box. It plays like every
really
format, including
If
MKVs.
you've got more than one TV, you need more than one popcorn hour. That's
Right.
just how it works.
And it supports surround sound. It supports HDMI, component video. It does standard def video, HD video. If you've got a file format, it generally can play it. It also plays online content, including Flash. It's crazy.
That's crazy cool. And I want to point out one additional thing today. We are both wearing hats.
Yes.
So
It's cold out, Brian. It is snowing like a mother here in Washington.
It's snowing like crazy up here in the Western Washington region.
I said on Twitter today, I said that the weather control knob got broke on into the winter position because, I mean, we've waken up to snow like the last 3 days in a row, and then today it's been snowing all day long.
Yep.
That's
It's
wild.
stuck.
That's
It's
wild to
stuck.
me. Yeah.
What can you do? What can you do? Hedgehog,
Yeah.
groundhog, whatever.
Right.
See the shadow,
There you
and
have
then the hole, and then the Puxatawny or whatever. Winter.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Hey, you know what? We mentioned those RSS feeds. I'll link to those in the show notes.
Good man.
I've wrote up a post that's just like all of the concise information you need to know about all the different feeds we have. So if you're interested in subscribing via RSS, check that out. It'll be in the show notes.
It's pretty fantastic. And of course, you can check us out on Twitter, Bryan Lass and Chris Lass, twitter.com/ in front of either of those names, and you will get there.
Very nice, sir. All right, everybody. Well, that wraps up this episode of the News Update. Just a quick shout out for our buddies over at GoDaddy.com. If you use our code Linux, that's LINUX, when you check out at GoDaddy.com, you're going to save 10%. If you're getting shared hosting, and I definitely recommend their shared hosting from personal experience, use the code Linux20, LINUX20, and you'll save 20% on hosting plans. That's a great deal. It helps out GoDaddy, and GoDaddy helps us out by paying us the advertisement sponsorship. We appreciate everybody that uses those codes Linux and Linux20 over at GoDaddy.com.